today I'm going to give a little bit of an overview. Hopefully that'll give a sense of things and will spark more conversations. Myself, I'm originally from Los Angeles, but I did my training. I went to undergrad, as I mentioned before, in the Bay Area. Go Bears. I went to medical school in Europe, which was amazing. It really expanded my mind, and it was a wonderful school. I did a lot of rotations here in the United States. And then I did my training in the East Coast. I trained at a big academic center in New York City, Albert Einstein. And then I was recruited down to the NIH, where I did my fellowship. And the NIH is the mothership for our nation. I'm clinical professor at 2 local medical schools, and I'm involved in a variety of different ways. But today is all about family. So these are my little guys. So Jack, Alex, and Caroline, or Coco, we call her. And they're wonderful. I love, running, spend time in the outdoors. That's one of the things that I miss a little bit about the Bay Area. I think there's a little easier access to outdoors, but LA's still good. We got our Topanga Canyons of the world. Things to just sort of think about right now, and I'm not sure this has been touched on or will be touched on tomorrow, but lifestyle, nutrition. I tell people that all people of childbearing age should do their best to take a multivitamin or a prenatal vitamin. To be fair, my doctor tried to put me on a prenatal vitamin just because it has a little more folic acid, B vitamins, and iron. But these are ways where we can optimize our reproductive health. So optimize our sperm and whatnot. CoQ10 is basically a souped up vitamin C. Maybe you've heard of that. It helps the engines of our cells work better. It helps improve sperm quality a little bit. Toxins, if you smoke, stop. So we know that when women smoke, we see lower implantation, lower pregnancy rates. When men smoke, we see lower semen parameters. Weight, to be fair, this is probably more for women. Men are a little more muscular, so our BMIs may be a little stronger. Muscle weighs more than fat, but we want to be a good, healthy weight. And as far as nutrition, I tell folks, eat regular food, eat whole food, try to avoid processed sugars, artificial colorings, things like that. Of course, for men, we always start with the semen analysis, a complete semen analysis. We assess key features. It's a complex test. You need to be a high-level laboratory specialist to do a semen analysis. And really the main issue is not the count in movement, but it's the shape of the sperm. And it goes through a very strict criteria when we evaluate the shape of the sperm. DNA fragmentation, actually, believe it or not, sometimes guys can be a reason for miscarriage if the sperm is highly fragmented. But usually just a simple semen analysis is an initial assessment. Ways to optimize, I mentioned. Moderate exercise, by the way. I tell anyone of reproductive age, like wanting to conceive, that don't overdo it in the gym. Because what happens is we maybe get too lean, right? Remember, fats, healthy cholesterol, are the building blocks of our sex steroids, of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. So we need a little bit of healthy fat to make good eggs and good sperm. The other is when we're really grinding like we did back in high school, college, and exercising in excess, we rev up our endorphins, our adrenaline, our norepinephrine, epinephrine, and that's not so great for egg and sperm production and ovulation. So definitely exercise. It's good for the heart, the lung, the soul, but not in excess. Oh no, my battery, that's not good. I'm so OCD that I'm like, this is, Brian. Oh, my battery's running low, okay. So here, just a little bit about genetics. There's different groups who are here, genetics. This is why we don't marry our brothers and sisters. Remember, being human, we all carry silent mutations. So it's good to know about prior to pregnancy. Remember, being an egg donor, egg donors go through a genetic assessment. It's good for the future dads to also have had their genetics screened. It's a simple blood test. It's quite easy. You can even do a saliva swab on your buccal, a cheek, and you can get screened for over 200 inherited silent mutations at a very low cost. So if you were to carry, say, Tay-Sachs disease or, say, whatever condition, thalassemia, it's good to know about because we don't want the egg donor to carry a similar mutation. Pictures of embryos. I know it's sort of crazy, but this is what we all look like before we implanted into our surrogates or mom's uterus. So a fertilized egg is, you can see the male and female gametes coming together in the top left. On day 2, 2 cells, 4 cells. Day 3, 8 cells. It compacts and then expands. I have a cool little video. I have 2 videos, which is sort of fun. Here. So this is how embryos develop. We need music, but this is day 2, so 2 cells, 4 cells. This is on day 2. Now day 3, there's 8 cells. And this is how human biology works. The embryo compacts on day 4, and then right here is super exciting where it expands. Where you can see in that at, say, 9 to 10 o'clock, that circle is the inner cell mass. That's where the baby develops from, the embryo. And the outer portion is the portion that would be the placenta. You'll hear tomorrow about the role for chromosome testing or PGS. This is where we can biopsy the outside of the embryo. We get 4, 5, 6 cells and we can determine, is it chromosomally normal? We also learn the sex of the embryo, not the gender. Remember, gender is self-identified, but the chromosomal sex of the embryo with high accuracy. So if you'd like a boy first, a girl first, that's how people figure it out. It allows us to be safer, to transfer fewer embryos and still have extremely high success rates. So PGS is a wonderful tool. It is not required when we're working with healthy young donors. But if we have a lot of embryos, we want to know what's the best of the best. And it allows me, as your fertility doctor, to transfer fewer embryos but still have a really good success rate. So it's something we would talk about more. That's what we talk about at the consultation, at follow-up visits, things like that. This is embryo transfer. Hopefully we'll see this again tomorrow, but this is a little video. This is where we glide the embryo into the uterus and we implant it. Typically we're listening to spa music. The surrogate's very relaxed, it's very calm. Sometimes the future dads are in the room. And right there you see someone like myself depositing the embryo into the uterus. Then we talk to it, we tell it to stick, to grow, to be a good child, do your homework. But in seriousness, embryo transfer also, the particulars, how deep you go. Do you go too far, too shallow? What is the thickness of the lining? These are all these hyper important variables that can increase your success rates. So this is the type of thing where it's really calm, soothing, things like that. But me, myself, am like hyper dialed in to the ultrasound that's being done and knowing exactly where I am. So that's where transfer technique can be important. Success rates. I know you've heard a lot about success rates. In general, our success rates are between 70 to 80%. In the most favorable of patients, it's a little bit higher even. It depends on how many embryos you transfer. Is it 1 or 2? If you transfer 2, you'll learn tomorrow we do have higher success rates on a national level, on a clinic level. But the problem is the risk of twins. And to be fair, I worry less about the surrogate and I worry more about the babies. Because surrogates are high-level, pregnancy specialists, right? So important factors to consider: selecting a donor, selecting a surrogate, use of PGS. These are all a little bit broader conversations. HRC Fertility, as I mentioned, it's a large reproductive practice. The HRC Rancho is a small, confined unit. We've got 9, 10 team members who are directly under our care, my supervision, we're all like in a canoe paddling in the right direction, right? It's all about individualized patient-centered care, right? Just being available, being reachable, LGBT focus, very much so. I've been involved in different organizations that have a heavy LGBT focus. Oh my gosh, 2 board certifications. We were founded over 30 years ago. And with that, we have access to cutting edge research. If someone needs to bring a new PGS platform to market, how do they do it? They need clinics like ours to have it go through double-blind, randomized, controlled clinical trials. So that's the thing locally. I think I mentioned a little bit, and internationally. We take care of a lot of patients from around the world, from Europe, from Asia. I have nurses who speak a variety of languages. I speak Spanish, I'm learning Chinese. My 2 sons, Jack and Alex, are both learning Chinese, which is fun. But in our house, we like language. And there's my team. Deanne is here also, my nurse. She's gonna come up in just a minute. And we're based in Southern California. LAX is a really easy airport to get in and out of. Ontario also. It takes a village, it takes a team. These are the sperm experts, the andrology team. Really where the magic happens, not just in the clinic, not just with the doctor and the nurse really developing that unique tie, but also very much so in the embryology lab. And here we have PhDs, Masters of Science, people who've done their undergraduate degree in embryology, studying human gametes and embryos. We publish in peer-reviewed journals. We're, changing management. One of the papers I did in fellowship is so cool. It's like changed sort of how we do different parts of IVF and inseminations. So, if you stop asking questions, that's no fun. You always got to be involved and clinically challenge things. Useful links, I would encourage you guys, if you want, to snap a quick picture, but this ASRM's wonderful. It's American Society of Reproductive Medicine. SART publishes success rates. Path to Parenthood, I was on the board with that. I was on the board of SART also, which is an elected position nationally. Doctors like myself voted for me to be like, yeah, John's a good guy, have him do the SART stuff. and it was cool, you know why? Because I got nationally our success rates for LGBT people to be published. Before, if you were a gay man and you look on the success rates, you're like, these are for people struggling with infertility. These aren't people like me. Right? So we got more bubbles, more check boxes so that we could do that. With work, a good attitude, you can change things. It's cool. So with that, this is me. Yeah, Michael Phelps. We all love Michael Phelps, right? It's an easy joke. But take a picture of this. Text me, call me. That's my email. My team is here. Maybe I might have Deanne come on up and Andrew and maybe answer a few questions. So Deanne is my team lead. She's wonderful. She is my main third-party coordinator, IVF coordinator. She's been doing it for over 10 years. I'm going to leave it at that. And she is a surrogate herself, and she's pregnant, carrying a child from a family based in Hong Kong, which is so cool. So she's involved in WeChat. Remember, I don't know, it's this app like WhatsApp, but for Chinese. And Andrew is our patient liaison. He helps keep the conversation going. He's expert in what he does. So any questions, guys? I know I talked a lot, but please.
Genetic screening, how much company to use, and can you do it from home?
So genetic screening.
You said there was like a swab.
Can you do it from home? Yes, you can. We can mail a kit. To be fair, it's slightly more accurate if you get a blood sample as opposed to a saliva sample, because if you just ate or you just brush your teeth, sometimes they don't get enough DNA from the saliva cells.
The company that we use has mobile phlebotomy. The company that we use, they use mobile phlebotomy, so they can actually schedule an appointment to come out to you, your home, your job, the park, and draw your blood, and then they'll send it out for you.
And would that be something that you just do at a regular insurance provider?
So we have cash patients, and then we have insurance, and it really depends on your insurance. There's deductibles that have to come into play. Sometimes it's cheaper to go cash than you would actually use insurance.
Yeah, and one of the things with HRC Fertility, because we're a large practice, they want to work with us in our clinic, so they bring the cost down for cash patients. So that's a little point there. maybe 1 or 2 more questions, please come by our booth. You know, hopefully you got a little better sense. You'll hear me in the medical panel tomorrow. And I would love to also set up like individual private consultations. I'm here until 8 o'clock tomorrow. That's when my flight is. So, but I'd love to meet maybe tomorrow after the medical panel if you want to just sit down for 10 minutes and talk more about your unique history. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.